Fed up of floor robes, driven to distraction and drowning with doom boxes? Tired of living in chaos? Welcome to Decluttering Untangled, how to declutter when you're overwhelmed, ADHD or autistic. I'm going to help you uncover the secrets to decluttering, no matter what hurdles you face. You'll discover how to declutter, de-stress and transform your world. I'm Heather Tingle, reformed hoarder, neurodivergent declutter queen, and your guide through the maze of mess. Let's get untangled. Hello, Untanglers, and welcome to another episode of Decluttering Untangled with me, your host, Heather Tingle. Now, first of all, I would really like to thank all of you that's voted for me for the National Diversity Awards. It absolutely blew me away reading all the votes. It had me sobbing actually, because they were so lovely, all the things that you were saying. Now, if you're listening to this before midday on the 21st of May, 2025, then you can still vote for me as a disabled role model. I'll pop the link in the show notes. But anyway, let's get on with today's podcast. So today's podcast is a really short, specific one, as I was talking to a member of my Untangled Life membership about what is in a normal home. Now, hopefully you know me well enough by now to know that using the word normal is not something I particularly like to do, but bear with me for the time being. So one of the things I see in many homes, and yes, even in uncluttered homes, is magazines. And wow, they can become a really big nightmare really, really quickly in so many homes. And if you have children, it is twice as problematic. So today I'm going to start with kids' magazines, because adult ones is a whole other big episode. And you know why, because I'm guessing you've got some magazines at home somewhere in your house causing you stress, or just hidden away as hidden clutter. But that is a whole other episode. So let's talk about kids' ones. So you know the ones they keep by the checkout of the supermarket with the amazing toy on the front cover that's actually plastic tat, but your kid wants it so much you basically double the price of your shop for this magazine, because you get home and then off they go with the toy and maybe start doing one of the activities in the magazine if you're lucky, and then it gets forgotten about. But you don't want to throw it away because either the subject matter is worthy, so you think it's educational, or there's some activities in there you think they'll do one day when they're bored. Okay, newsflash. They're probably never going to go back to it ever again, and they're not likely to let you bin it within an hour of getting it, are they? So what do? What happens generally is it gets added to a pile of scrap paper, activity books, stickers, etc., which then become at some point a huge mess, which you then declutter, and all you've done is just carried on having a pile of paper in your house for a couple of months in order to be able to let it go. Total waste of time. So let's look at better ways of working with it. So the first thing you need to do, and it is a you thing, not your child thing, is to get your head around accepting the fact you just paid a fortune for a toy, which is worth not very much, and scrap paper. And you need to be okay with that. It is part of growing up, and in a world of everything being online, the fact they actually wanted something paper-based is still, in my opinion, a good thing. So do not stress too much about the whole waste of money thing, which can be so strong with these items. You need to recognise that just because you don't agree with the toy or wherever it is on the front being worth the price you paid for the whole thing, it's not necessary that your child does think that. Your child probably does think that the price of the magazine was worth it just for that toy, and that it was the magazine itself was like a nice bonus edition. It was like a bonus almost by buying the toy. So you need to work on your waste mindset and not worry about using it or getting your money's worth from it, because keeping it for months on end is not going to increase its value to you or your child, and it's just going to leave you frustrated. So once you've got your head around that, the next thing is to look how to store it. Now you've got two options for this one. One, give them a clear magazine file to store them vertically, because once it is then full, it becomes a one in, one out system, which they choose which goes. And it's really important to have a defined space that, if you've ever used a magazine file, you know that there's only so much you can shove in it before it becomes impossible to put anything else in there, which is why it's great, because it's a defined space. This is where they keep their magazines, and when it's full, they've got to do something about it. And it's useful to make it a clear magazine file so they can see them. They know that they're there. Because if you ever see regular magazine files, usually the things that are inside them are hidden. You can't actually tell what's in there. And then it's out of sight, out of mind, never to be looked at ever again. So it's really important to have a clear magazine file. And if I can find one, I'll pop a link in the show notes for you as well. So that's one option, and that can work really, really well. Something that could be a bit more proactive, if you are more of a creative family, then what else you can do is you can book time in to read those articles with them and pull out. So literally pull out of the paper, like out of the magazine, cut it out, get your scissors out if you need to, and pull out any activities and puzzles in the magazine that you actually think they're going to use. And then read the other bits that you think that actually you just need to read through them. So use those activities and puzzles and keep them separate and put them into folders so that they can become more usable and more easily accessible. So you can use them, for example, if you're traveling or going on holiday, or if you've got like a rainy day entertainment file, you can use it in those times. Now, that needs to be something that you're in charge of, and you need to limit to one in, one out once that folder is full. Now, only you will know how many of these things you need to keep. So how many you use needs to make sure that whatever you're putting them into needs to be the right size. So you don't want to have a great big file if you're only going to use one every couple of years or months or whatever. You need to make sure that it's not too big, so it encourages you to keep a reasonable amount and you declutter it. The rest of the magazine you can just recycle, or you can then use in crafting if you are that way inclined, for something like collages, even making paper aeroplanes or making paper mache. But it needs to be something fun that your child doesn't mind the magazine being destroyed over, because they're still getting the goodness out of that magazine. But do not turn it into a pile, which is then going to be a one-day project that never actually happens. Again, book it into your diary. Of course, another suggestion is put it straight in the recycling bin. But in all honesty, if you want your child to learn good organisation and decision-making habits, plus you want them to trust you, this is not something I would ever consider. It is their stuff, so ask them which option they want to do. I mean, you've got a whole host of them that hopefully I've given you an idea for. So which one do they want to do? Which one do they choose? And work with that, because it is never too early to teach them self-advocacy and decision-making. Okay, told you it was going to be a short but sweet one. So I hope that has given you some things to think about. Remember, you're not alone. Be kind to yourself and keep untangling. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of Decluttering Untangled. If you found anything that I've said today helpful, please do me a favour, hit that subscribe button or leave me a review. It's like receiving a virtual high five that keeps me going and lets me know that I'm helping real people out there and I'm making a difference. Please remember, you're not alone in this. I'm building a community of fellow untanglers over on Facebook. Just visit the show notes for the link to my free decluttering community. So until next time, remember, you're not alone, you're not lazy, you can untangle your life.